What's up, gentlemen? This is Rising Phoenix Podcast, a podcast about how to rise up after your divorce. I'm your host, divorce coach, Michael Rhodes. Let's get into it. Joining me today is Dr. Leigh Jerome. Dr. Jerome, let's just jump right into it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, hi, I'm Dr. Leigh Jerome. I'm a clinical psychologist in New York City, and I provide psychotherapy with expertise across a range of specialties, including relationships, gender, empathy, the arts and creativity, long COVID and chronic illness, virtual environments, leadership, social change and activism, psychopathology, stress, and self-love. I work with a range of people, individuals, couples, and groups, and I help people develop insights into troubling thought and behavior patterns, cultivate positive solutions to address conflicts and struggles in life, explore new pathways for post-traumatic growth, face challenging transitions, and forge purposeful integration in order to foster delight, creativity, and fulfillment in life. I'm also a mixed media installation artist and founder of Relational Space, a 501c3 nonprofit gallery here in New York that brings artists and scientists together to collaborate and co-curate immersive installations for positive social change. Our vision is to build a more just and sustainable world inspired through art and informed by truth. Thank you for having me here today.
Oh, yeah. No, you're welcome. Thanks for doing this. So, and how I found you is I believe I came across this, I think, Psychology Today blog post, and you talked about negative thought loops. And that's always something that when you're going through something difficult and traumatic, or actually just life in general, those things can happen. You can get stuck in your head in a negative thought loop. So first, but let's define it. What is a negative thought loop?
Yeah, it's a good topic to talk about because negative thought loops are not a problem. They're the normative way that our mind operates. Our brains are always working during waking hours as well as at sleep. Our brains are continuously active. And so since the brain is active, taking in information from the environment through all of your senses. So what you see, what you hear, what you think, everything. And then we focus on the things that are the most important, and that's the way our brain works. So it's natural for the mind to drift and move from one topic to the other. It's kind of sifting through the information that's out there and pinging on those things that are the most important. So the brain's healthy default mode is really wandering from topic to topic, and our brain has a tendency or a bias, a negativity bias. So the brain reacts with a greater surge of neural activity when we register something that's negative. And there's a reason for this. I mean, evolutionarily speaking, we are very primed to be aware of danger and things that are going to harm us, in the environment. So the surge of activity means that we're looking at the negative information and, trying to pay attention to that negativity in the environment in order to know when we don't have to be alert anymore for dangers. So a negative thought loop is kind of the extension of that. So it's natural for the mind to wander. It's natural for the mind to spend more time focused on negative data because it's more important. It's more likely to harm us.
Right.
But what that means is that it also, since our brains are hardwired with this negativity bias, it means we're more likely to remember negative events. We remember them more vividly, we dwell on them more intensely, and it can lead us to overlooking other things in the environment, the positive things, the joy and the nice things that people say to us. And we're more likely to remember and to focus on traumatic events and negative stimuli. So a negative thought loop is when you kind of get stuck in that. So, the mind goes there naturally. You start thinking about these negative things, often things that have happened in the past or things that you're worried about happening in the future.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so that negative thought loop is like, when you become obsessive kind of, or ruminate on things and you just turn it over and over and over in your mind, that's a negative thought loop.
Yeah, I can I think all of us can relate,
Mhm.
right? I think it's something that we all experience. So and there's I think
Well, can I just speak to that? It's
yeah,
not something that it's not something that most of us experience. It is normal. And I think that's really the most important thing to realize is you're not doing something wrong because
right.
you are having these negative thoughts. It's the loop. It's when you get the obsessiveness, when you just let it spin and spin around the mind. But everybody, I mean, that's the
Yeah.
way our brain works. Yeah.
Yeah. And so because it's prevalent, it's in our lives.
Mhm.
I think it's wise of us to figure out ways to stop it, to eliminate it in that moment, not forever. As you said, it's a normal, natural thing.
Correct.
What are some of the ways that we can stop these negative thought loops?
Well, I was thinking about this before coming on today, and I was thinking particularly about people who have experienced separations, divorce, breakups, that kind of thing. And that is clearly a negative event. I mean,
Oh yeah.
if you if you look at the list, and I know this is going a little bit outside of your question, I hope that's okay, but
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
so if you look at like the 10 top stressors that a person can experience in life, 5 of them have to do with relationships.
Mm,
One, of course, is the death of a spouse or a child, which is the top
yeah.
stressor, which is
Yeah.
horrible. But divorce, separation, getting married, or reconciling, those are all in the top 10 things. And so I
Wow.
think it's important to realize that this is a really negative event that's
Yeah.
happened. And even if it's a relationship that's like, it's really time to move on, it's been really negative, it's been
Sure.
even then it's just really a traumatic event. And so I guess the first thing you want to do, to go back to your question, is to respect your own trauma, to realize that losing someone is something that takes 1 to 3 years to accommodate in your life. That doesn't mean you're going to be miserable for 3 years,
Right.
but
Right.
it
Right.
means that adjustment process, the normal adjustment process, is 1 to 3 years. So I think the first thing to do is to stop trying to get rid of the negativity in your brain.
Mm,
You definitely want to try to get rid of the loop,
sure.
but yeah, but to become curious about it,
Yeah.
to say, well, why do I keep going back to this, the same loop? What is it that I'm trying to achieve? So really awareness is the first step,
Mm,
to step back from it and consider what you're thinking and what you're feeling neutrally, because it's really easy to get down on yourself
sure.
and um, and to really amplify the situation by feeling bad about feeling bad,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
which just puts you into another negative thought loop.
Sure.
So the
Yeah.
first thing, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No. Another common one, I think, that as you say, when you're going through something and you're already upset, and then you sort of get upset for being upset, so you
Absolutely.
you pile
Absolutely.
on yourself.
Yeah.
So
And
and
you're
I,
bringing things like shame onto yourself.
oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So first
No,
thing to do is
not at
just to
all.
be sort of conscious of this, like, okay, this is really hard, and that's okay. I can be feeling bad, and that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me. It's actually very normal.
That's correct. And I think that by stepping back and trying to be curious about what you're thinking about, it also orients you differently. There's no way to lose someone that you've been in a relationship with.
Mm,
I don't care I don't care how long it's been. I don't care how intense the breakups been. There's no way for that to happen without you going through a period of adjustment, because you've put all of your hopes and dreams
mm,
into this relationship. You have plans, you have you developed a life. And for men, it's often the case that a man, just because of the way society, uh, kind of sets out roles for men, it's
Sure.
very easy for men to be in a relationship in such a way that when they come out, they don't have social supports because that's maybe been their spouse's kind of domain, or they don't have planning skills or really the skills to just go out and make friends and to be a
Sure.
part of things, or to get their needs met, or to think about what they're feeling and
Sure.
identify it.
Yeah.
And those are all things that you're going to have to develop, which is skill building is definitely possible. I mean, that's
Sure.
cool, that's going to happen. So I think that by stepping back and being curious about what you're feeling, you can start to identify, oh, wow, I don't think I'm very good at knowing what I'm feeling, or I don't think I'm very good at going out and finding new friends, or you can start to really pay attention to the nuances of what you're thinking about. And instead of just saying, oh God, here I go again, I'm so sick, I'm so
Right. Right.
damaged, I'm
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
your body and your mind are a single unit.
Oh
We're,
yeah.
we're connected. And so your body is talking to you.
Hmm.
And I think that if you can listen to what it is that you're feeling shame, you're feeling regret, or you're feeling scared, or maybe it's just replaying something over and over and over. Maybe it's that kind of a loop,
Sure.
but there's a reason for it. There's something, maybe it's that you feel slighted, or you feel that you're misunderstood. These are, your body is talking to you. It's saying there's something that needs to be addressed. So yeah, by stepping back and being neutral about it, you can pay attention instead of just to saying, oh, I need to get rid of this. You can say, oh, what is it that I need you know, to identify and change in my life that will help me move positively beyond this? I mean, in our culture, we are not allowed to take the time that we need to feel better and to make changes and to move on. But 1 to 3 years, man, that's what it takes.
Yeah.
And there's no getting around it. The only way around it is through it.
Yeah.
And so to go through it and to feel the negativity in a positive way, if you will, that means looking at possible triggers. What is it that made me start thinking about this? If you can't identify it, then move on to, am I just replaying this in my mind by default, which
Right.
definitely happens. And so
Sure.
you can say something as simple as stop, not, hard on yourself, but just stop and let me think about some other things. Let me think about things that I'm grateful for. And I know that sounds like really, kind of, airy fairy, but it is really helpful to stop and breathe, take 2 or 3 deep breaths. I mean, just to center yourself, say, okay, just stop, take 3 deep breaths. And now, what are 5 things around me right now? Just get back in the present. Get back in the present. Stop thinking about what's going to happen in the future. Stop thinking about what's happened in the past. Learn
So
how to. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, how much I sometimes struggle with this because a lot of advice I see from guys, from just regular guys, is distract yourself. Think about,
Absolutely.
go do other things. But how
Mhm.
much of that can be also, I don't know if dangerous isn't the right word, but harmful, because
Counterproductive.
yeah, because I mean, as you said earlier, like, you go through it, right? You don't try to avoid it, but there is and I agree that there is some distraction necessary, because you can't live in it all the time, right? You have to find
That's
something
right.
else to occupy your mind. But what is the balance there?
It's a good question.
Yeah, and I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if there is an answer, but I sometimes worry, especially for men, that we can just be like, oh, I'm just going to be a workaholic, and then that ultimately will kind of bite you in the butt too, because you're just ignoring what had happened. And so I think there's a bit of a balance there that's necessary.
100%. I mean, distraction is great, and it's one of the things that you should be doing is finding ways not just to distract yourself, but positive ways to distract yourself. It's really easy to want to maybe take a drink, or do things that are more self-destructive, workaholic,
Sure.
that kind of behavior. So balance is key. Recognizing distraction is a good choice sometimes. Making healthy choices means kind of, one thing that you can do is say, I'm not going to think about this. I'll think about this from 3 to 5 today.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
set boundaries for
I love
yourself.
that. Yeah, I love that.
Or another thing that you can do is say, I'm gonna I'm obsessing. I'm gonna go out for a run. Going out for a run is a great thing to do, or going to the gym or whatever, because if you can, kind of get yourself a little tired, get some oxygen rich blood circulated through your system, those thoughts will go right out of your head, at least for a short period. You come home, they're going to come right back probably, but distraction, distraction is a great thing. I think if you, instead of thinking about it as distraction, think about a bigger basket that, call it something like self-soothing or self-love. And so that in that basket, there are things like distraction, like things that you like to do, maybe, taking yourself to a movie, calling up a friend, finding new ways to make friends, teams, leagues, hobbies, that kind of thing. Learning how to self-soothe also means learning how to sit with what you're feeling and finding ways to alleviate it. And I think you have to give yourself some time to practice that.
Sure.
Or all you do is spend time running around trying to avoid the issues. And it's just the way the healing cycle works. It's like grief, you have to go through the phases, and it's not that it's not real. It's kind of like just not done yet. It takes a while, right? So, you can't eat a cake if it's just been put in the oven. You have to wait till it cooks. And that's what kind of this cycle of healing is about.
Yeah, one of the things I see often, and we were talking about the cycle, and it's not linear. It's not even close to linear. And one of the things that I caution guys against quite frequently is certainty. When you're certain, I'm over it, and it hasn't been 1 to 3 years.
Right.
I say, well, easy. And if you're certain you're over it because it's another relationship, again, red flag, red alarm, whatever you want to call it. But also the certainty that you're never going to be okay. This is terrible. My life is over. I always caution against that. I don't know how do you feel about being, certain, at any point during this journey? Isn't that a little bit, I always find it a little bit dangerous when I see guys say, "Oh, I am over this," and it's like, well, are you, or are you just having a good day?
Well, I mean, that's again another great question, or great point, I should say, because you don't really get over it. I mean, you find a healthy way to address change, especially traumatic change, is to realize that what you're doing is integrating it. You're finding a place in your heart and in your life that will be positive, that will lead you to post-traumatic growth versus bitterness, depression, anxiety, shame. So what you're doing is saying, I need to take all of those parts, the negative parts, but there are positive parts. I mean, you did fall in love. Maybe you had kids, maybe you had some good years. I mean, all of those things need to get integrated, which is why it takes 1 to 3 years. That's normal grief. And after normal grief, there is protracted grief. There's a kind of grief, it can be more than that. That's because you have to find a way to integrate it, to become a whole person, and to realize that's always going to be a painful loss. It's like if someone dies, you don't just say, I'm not going to think about them anymore. There's somebody that you loved and you want to find a place for them that doesn't always hurt. But chances are it's going to have moments of, sadness for when you think about that relationship, because it's sad. It's also probably joyous, and it's probably also healthy that you're making this change. It's hard to feel them all at the same time, but definitely saying that I'm over it. I mean, it's especially sometimes there's this period of denial.
Yes.
And relief. You're just happy that phase is over.
Right.
but maybe there's more to come. Also, these
Oh,
things happen in waves, right?
oh
So
yeah.
it's not like a steady linear path to,
No.
it's like this. So
Yeah.
you're up and down and up and down. So yeah, you're having a good day.
Yeah.
Maybe you're over some part of it,
Sure.
but yeah, it can come wailing back on you.
Yeah, for sure. Waves, roller coasters, whatever it is that is not linear in any fashion. It's not a hill. It's not a steady
Yeah.
climb. It's more
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm feeling good. Okay, you're feeling good. All right, here. How about this memory? So
Right.
I think in some ways the brain. I don't know if this is true, but I feel like sometimes the brain says, "Oh, you're doing good. Well, here's one. Now that you're a little better. Okay, cool. Now maybe you can handle this one." So,
Well, I
but
think that's true though. I mean,
yeah,
because that's what integration is. That's what
yeah,
the process is your body protects you
yeah.
and it doesn't let you can't experience it all at once. You end up in a corner drooling.
For sure. So you mentioned something that I have yet to address, but I want to, and we don't have to go too far down this rabbit hole, but you mentioned post-traumatic growth. I know the phrase, but I understand the concept a little bit, but I don't know much about it. I hate to sort of put you on the spot because we didn't talk about this beforehand, but can you talk a little bit about that? What post-traumatic growth is?
Sure. I mean, there's stress, right? And there's loss.
Sure.
And what can happen is stress or trauma can lead you to growth through integration of what's happened and developing healthy choices, a lifestyle that allows that to integrate. Or you can go to a place where you just don't, like you said, either through running so fast you don't take the time to heal, or by becoming bitter and angry and thinking that that's reality.
Yeah.
Because it's not. Your reality is what you make of it. That
Sure.
might take a little bit of time,
Yeah.
but bitterness and anger and depression are not necessary in your life. And so to choose post-traumatic growth means a conscious process
Yeah.
of saying, I want to take this trauma and make something good out of it. And that has to be a conscious choice. You have to, I mean, the default is bitterness
Sure.
and anger. And so you have
Yeah.
to say, I can either sit and dwell in this. Well, let me just stop there.
Yeah.
You can't, you have to experience that. You don't
Yeah.
want to just say, no, I'm not bitter. No, I'm not angry,
Right.
or no, I'm fine. I'm gonna be, post-traumatic growth. That's me.
Right.
It's again, allowing yourself the normal healing process, realizing that everybody goes through those feelings of bitterness and anger, but that's not, bitterness and anger can coexist with joy and growth. And so realizing it's a complex process. And I guess that's the main thing, is to realize that you have agency.
Yeah.
And that is so important, to realize that you have agency. Sometimes it feels like you don't, because
Sure.
that bitterness and anger just hangs around.
Yeah.
But that's often because you're not ready to let go of it yet.
Yeah.
You're pissed or
Yeah.
you're hurt, and you're not ready to, to say, I am ready to move on. I'm ready to let that go. And if you need to have it in your life a little bit longer, if you recognize that it's your decision, that you have agency, that at some point you will allow yourself to let go of that and move on, it makes it easier.
Yeah. Do you think it's possible? I mean, I shouldn't say it's not. Do you think it's much easier to navigate something like this with a therapist and a coach? Like, I think the answer is obvious, but because I think you need that outside view, that unbiased view that says, you're not quite there yet. It's only been 3 months or 6 months, or are you sure? I don't you think like something like a coach or a therapist is really important to help
I mean,
through
I
this
think
process?
so. Sure. I mean, if you have a good social network with a lot of friends,
Sure.
perhaps they can help out. If you have a church or a religious figure, that might be helpful. The thing about a therapist, what a therapist can provide is a neutral
Yeah.
point in your journey.
Yeah.
So, to have someone that doesn't have a vested interest in you at all,
Yeah.
other than being there to support you and to guide you, that can be extremely helpful. Whereas a friend, they're going to side with you. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's their
Yeah. Yeah.
job is
Yep.
to support you in a different way. And so having someone that's really neutral, it can be helpful. And if for people who are going through a difficult time in their life, I mean, we're going to have blind spots. That's just how we are. We're like how you said, you experience something, then you can experience a little bit more, then you can experience a little bit more. You don't see the whole picture. So yeah, having somebody that can help you kind of navigate the situation, really helpful, really
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah.
So let's move on to positive thought loops, because if there is a negative, there must be a positive. So how do you what are they? How do you foster that? Let's talk about that. Talk about that a little bit.
Right. So I think the first thing, again, just to reiterate this, is realizing that you do have agency. You have the capacity to turn something negative into something positive. It just takes work. And that's the truth. It's like going to
Yeah.
the gym.
Yep.
You go to the gym, you don't end up walking out of there looking, like a
Right.
Greek god.
Right.
It takes work, it takes
Yeah.
dedication, and it takes focus. So there are things that you can do. Eating well and exercising is not a small thing. Your body and your mind are connected. It's really easy to be self-destructive and not care about those things, but it really helps to take care of your mind and your body in a very basic way. Creative activities are great. Writing it in a journal can be especially helpful, especially if you're not really tuned in to your feelings. Learning how to identify what you're feeling and say it. I feel angry. That's cool. That doesn't mean you're an angry person. It means that you feel angry, or you feel hurt. And understanding the difference between anger and hurt is really important. So sometimes writing, just kind of whatever's on your mind, just writing. Just don't lift the pen, just keep going for 15 minutes or something like that. And then any creative activities are really, really helpful. So turning on music and dancing, I know that seems kind of, like a nutty thing to do, but really singing, dancing, really helpful. Singing actually calms the vagus nerve.
Yep.
The vagus nerve is involved in fight or flight. So, singing and humming actually can calm that down and take you out of fight or flight. Also, good sleep is so important. Getting at least 7 hours of sleep at night can help the healing process considerably.
Sure. Yeah.
Self-love. Self-love means saying positive things to yourself. Seriously, that has to be a deliberate process, because the tendency is not to say nice things to yourself.
No,
So positive self-talk, is really important. Forgiving yourself when you mess up, recognizing you're going to make mistakes, you're going to, blow it, and starting over. Just start seeing it, letting it go, and starting over. Also asking for help. Learning to realize that you don't have to have all the answers. If you don't have friends, realizing that, you need to get out. You need to have a social support system. They don't have to be your best confidants, but you need to at least have buddies or playmates or whatever. Going for walks in nature or being involved in nature in any way, research shows that helps to heal and provide a positive, soothing. Just going for a walk in nature or just looking at nature. Actually, if you were to look at videos of nature on the computer versus videos of landscape, like urban landscapes, you will feel calmer and more positive. Yeah, exactly. And then other things like accepting your imperfections, setting realistic expectations, 1 to 3 years, not tomorrow.
Right.
That kind of thing.
So you're a psychiatrist. You've probably
psychologist.
Psychologist. You've probably been doing this for a little while. And I'm sure I know the answer to this question, but have you seen some pretty drastic growth? Have you seen someone go from the depths of despair to the happiest they've ever been in their life?
Oh, 100%. Constantly. That's what we all do. We all do it in little ways every day. And there's no one that you will see in this world as an adult that hasn't encountered trauma. All of those people are walking down the street and still with us because they have in some way managed, their trauma. But specifically, when it comes to the loss of someone that was in our life, either through your decision or through their decision. And it's harder if it's their decision. It's a lot harder because you lose your power.
Yeah.
But you will get better. Grief, you know, that old saying, time heals.
Yeah.
It's not actually true. Time does help though.
Yes.
And,
you know,
just breathing through the days, letting the days pass by you don't look down the road, 2 years. Look right now, try to stay present, try to stay grounded and breathe, and time will pass. And as time passes, that definitely helps. Yeah. If you apply some of these things that we've talked about today, you will heal. Yeah. And if you can't heal, there are people that can, be with you, that can, make that a lot more effective. But I should say this, you won't heal if you don't apply yourself. Yeah. Probably. You will, it's an active process.
Yes, it is.
You have to work at it.
Yeah, I agree with that. You mentioned something, and this might turn into a rabbit hole, but I don't think it will. But you mentioned power. You mentioned your loss of power. Yeah. And that's 100%. I can, because it wasn't my decision, and that's I mean, there's so many things and dynamics that happen when that happens, and that's one of them. You feel helpless and powerless. Yeah. What are some ways? Again, I don't think this would be too much. I think we probably touched on a lot of it, but what are some ways to get your power back if someone else decided to end the marriage and you lost your power?
Right. I think it's a good point to talk about. So if you're in a relationship, even if it's a bad relationship, you're still moving through your day in a way that's comfortable in the sense that it's familiar.
Sure.
And so if someone says to you, I'm done with you, your natural inclination is to try to keep that from happening. Yes. Because being shafted, which is what it feels like, yes. To be, to feel like someone has rejected you, yeah. To feel like that you don't have the capacity to fix it. That's harsh. Yeah. I mean, that's really harsh. So the tendency is to try to scramble and to try to make that not happen. But the thing is that is a feeling. That is because you don't want to lose. You don't want to be helpless. You don't want to be in a position. So what you need to do to regain your power, first thing is to sit with it, to let yourself feel powerless, to let yourself feel like I've experienced loss. There are stages of grief. That's what you're going through. So being aware of those, and then very much realizing that the things that we've talked about will re-up your power. You want to set boundaries with that relationship and boundaries with yourself. No midnight calls after a couple of beers, because you lose more power that way. You're not gaining your power. That's setting boundaries with yourself and saying there are rules. I'm going to set up rules. I don't care if you have to post them on your refrigerator, there are rules. Right. And that means, learning a different way, perhaps, of having the relationship with that person that enforces those rules. And you can say something very simply like, I've had to set up boundaries for myself. You don't have to be, a jerk about it. You can just say, I've set up these boundaries, and I'm going to try to, live by them, at least for a little while. I'd appreciate that being something that, we both understand. If that doesn't work, if just there's too much rancor, just implement them yourself. And then I can't stress enough how important it is to have a good social support system. So doing what you need to do. If you're not good at making friends, you're not alone. Most people are not, but there are things that you can do to gratify that social need and give you support, like, meetups, or going to, finding a group that you don't have to participate in too much, right. But that you can just, do you know the construct of co-regulation?
No, I do not.
So co-regulation is when other people help you, you kind of adjust to what they're feeling. Like, if you've ever been around somebody who's really angry and it makes your heartbeat, accelerate. And if you meet someone that's really calm and you have sustained eye contact with them, you will actually co-regulate with their nervous system. Now, you can do that individually as well by breath work, by really, meditation, yoga, that kind of thing, really being mindful. But co-regulation is something that to some degree you can do with a pet. Looking into your eyes of your beloved pet is really co-regulating. You'll calm right down. Even watching fish is co-regulating. Sure. But realizing that being in a group of people that are kind and supportive, that lift you up in some way, that co-regulation, there is no substitute for it. And that is power. That is learning self-love. That is putting boundaries and saying, I can't hang out with people that are negative, even if they think they're being positive. If they make me feel bad, or if they make me angry, or if they, wind me up, I need to perhaps limit being around them right now and be around, people that are able to lift me up and have that co-regulation with them.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of the concept. It makes a ton of sense. I think we mentioned a couple of times, your social support, having a tribe of folks that you can lean on, and not only in this instance in terms of, I'm really struggling with something, can you guys help me with this, but just in life in general, because I am not a car guy, but I drive them, and sometimes like I might need some, like I don't know how to, there's certain things I just don't know how to do. But if I have someone that I can call within the, my social group that can help me, and those kinds of scenarios exist, not just cars. I mean, it could be anything, right? And so I think, and it's really hard for men and I don't know if it's hard for women. I suppose there are probably different challenges around that. But I know for men, especially, for whatever reason, we love to isolate. We love to just not,
turn inward. Yeah.
Yes, big time. We all, I got it. I'll do it on my own. And I think it's a struggle that I have, but to try and get men to, and me too. I have those moments too, where it's like, I just want the world to leave me alone. Sure. But it's I think if we don't try and embrace creating our tribe, so to speak, especially during this process, I think we're at a disadvantage that is in some ways easy to fix. I mean, the internet can connect us pretty easily nowadays, and so I don't know if you see that and any clients you've had, men, that it's just hard to get men, at least in my view, to get them to open up and to be open to new experiences, new people, and just putting themselves out there.
I mean, I think, again, going back to kind of the roles that we're socialized into, it's more common for men to feel like they should be handling this themselves. They shouldn't feel weakness. They shouldn't feel sad. Right. And if they do, they're certainly not going to tell anybody about it because it shows their weakness. Yeah. And that's fine if you want to, put on a facade for work, or, sure, have a persona for situations where you need to be professional. But we are all human, and one's gender does not change grief. No. It has nothing to do with it. No. If you're going through grief, through a period of loss and reorganization of your priorities, you need help. You need people to lean on. And I can't stress enough, it's not just going out and drinking with your friends. Yeah. It's finding people who are able to talk, and you don't have to go on and on about it, but at least to be able to say, I'm sad. Yeah. I'm having a hard time. Yeah. Can we go out and do something positive? It can be as simple as that. That is plenty if that's all you're comfortable with. But that alone, and finding those people who will understand what you're saying, not the people that'll go out and just start slamming your ex and winding you up, because it's not helpful. I mean, it just takes you to that negative place. You will be back in those negative thought loops so fast, right? Yes. So going out, and maybe you need to talk about it. Maybe you need to say, this is just so hard, or do you have any advice, or, you need to talk about it. Definitely. And it is harder. I mean, not all men, not all women, obviously, sure, but it is by societal kind kind of
Pressure.
indoctrination,
Yeah.
pressure. It is harder for men, definitely. And it's easy for men in situations where they've been wounded to just want to go lick their wounds and be insular.
Yeah.
And it's not that there's not a time and place for that, but it'll lead to bad things if it goes on too long. Bad, problems with your health, problems with your social life, problems with self-destructive behavior. Because self-destructive behavior doesn't have to be active. It can just be that thought loop over and over, just tearing you down. And, that's just self-destructive behavior.
No, 100%. I agree. Well, Dr. Jerome, I really appreciate you doing this. This has been amazing. So the last question that I ask everybody is, what words of wisdom would you impart to a man just beginning his divorce journey?
I'm so sorry. I mean, I don't think there's really many things harder. There is nothing harder than loss. Nothing. And divorce is extremely hard because the person's still there and you're having to oftentimes negotiate with them, especially if they're kids. I mean, it's tough. It's tough. Allow yourself to see that this is a tough one and be kind to yourself. And when you're, being a jerk, forgive yourself and start over and realize that it's up to you to make those changes, but it is not going to happen fast. It is normal. Grief is 1 to 3 years, and there's no way around it. It is an opportunity, however. It's an opportunity to reprioritize, what's important to you. It's an opportunity to look at the relationships that you have and say, what did I like about this? And what do I want to change? If you have kids, it's an opportunity to get to know them in a whole new way, to really let them see both your vulnerability and also your interest in them. Putting the interest in other people, really helpful. Taking it off of yourself, doing things like volunteer work or spending time with your kids in a positive way. All of those things are really gifts, even though it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, no, it certainly doesn't. Thank you. Excellent words of wisdom. How can people find you? What's the best way to get in touch or to read your work?
I'm on Psychology Today. I post on there, and I have a website, leighjerome.com, which is my website for for therapy. You can also go to Relational Space if you're interested. That's relational-space.org, and that's the art and science gallery.
That sounds awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
It reminds me of I went out I was traveling for work. I went to Kansas City, and they have this I don't know if this is similar to what you're talking about, but they have this Vincent Van Gogh exhibit.
Oh, the immersive exhibit.
Yeah, that was amazing. I highly recommend that. So if you're doing anything in that space, I find that stuff fascinating. It's pretty interesting.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's really interesting bringing kind of information, like factual information together, or artists together with scientists to come up with ways of trying to, share knowledge in an entertaining way. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So thank you again for doing this. I really appreciate it. We'll definitely have you back on, and we'll have some more discussions, because I think there's much more to be discussed in this topic. So again, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It's nice being here. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great day.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. Since my separation in July of 2019, I have done an incredible amount of work on myself. I've had many different therapists, life coaches, and went through different programs. I've taken all that I've learned and put it into my own program called Forged by Fire. If you are interested in having me help you navigate your divorce, please hit my website, risingphoenixdivorcecoach.com. I look forward to working with you.